Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be looking at a certain kind of trope, and that is the enigma, the very strange, kind of hard to pin down Manic Pixie dream character. Typically it's a Manic Pixie dream girl, and the term was actually coined in 2005 by a Nathan Rabin, and he kind of used the phrase after seeing Elizabethtown, the film starring Kirsten Dunst, and yeah, it just kind of spawned into its own thing from there. Although it is typically a Manic Pixie dream girl, there are such things as a Manic Pixie dream boy as well, so I'm just calling it the Manic Pixie dream character. Does Manic Pixie Dream not sound like a thing anymore? It really didn't sound like a thing from the beginning, but here we are. So what is this character? What do they do? Why are they such a frowned upon thing, and yet why are they so overused in films and books today? Well, in very, very basic terms, they are a fever dream. They are the idealistic, fun, quirky, whimsical person that comes into the main character's life in order to give them meaning, in order to give them a rush of life again, and just to give them some kind of purpose. This character exists to give the main character a purpose again and to give them their spark back in life. That is the basis of it. They are quirky, they are weird, they see the world completely differently to everybody else. They don't feel like someone who belongs in the same world as the main character. They don't have any goals of their own, they just seem to live life by the moment. They don't have a plan, they don't have something that they want, they are just existing in the moment, and they are perfectly fine there. They are always just out of reach, and yet they want to be followed. They are always just on the verge of whimsical, but still realistic enough for the main character to follow. It's a very complicated balance, so they're not easy to write, and yet they're very lazy to write. No one else really acts like them. They're not realistic to the world. They aren't realistic as people, because even the most aloof, laid-back characters have some type of goal, have something that they want, even if they don't want to admit it. These characters don't. They are just there for the main character in this idealistic image. And they always follow a very similar formula. They appear seemingly out of nowhere, they drop into the main character's life, they spark their interest, they introduce them to new things and new experiences, they help them emotionally without really trying to, they maybe the main character sort of realizes that they can fix an issue by adopting some of their personality traits, but then just when things are about to get serious, or when things are about to progress even further, the Manic Pixie Dream character vanishes without a trace. This leaves the main character in a state of despair, a state of a relapse, where they think, well, if they're not around, then what is the point? But then they realise, no, wait, I can still carry on being this amazing person that I've turned into because of them, and I can go on and live my life, and then I'll find somebody else because I am now a fixed person because of the experiences I've had with this whimsical thing. They are just the shot of adrenaline that the main character needs in order to continue their journey, but unfortunately the story will end when the Manic Pixie Dream character has vanished, because that's apparently all the development that characters need. Not true, but we're going with the trope here. It is a sexist trope because 9 times out of 10 there will be a Manic Pixie Dream girl. You find that a lot in stories. It is the trope where the girl will come into the guy's life to fix him. If you're writing from a main character's perspective who is male, then they will meet this amazing woman, they will have their life fixed, they will see things in a new light, they will realise that the world is open to them, and then when this woman leaves, yes, they are depressed, but then they realise, actually, someone took interest in me. This person has introduced me to new things, and I can go off and do things on my own, and I will meet somebody again. That is the trope there. But when it's the other way around, it is a woman who is trying to get her life together, she is trying her hardest to make it out on top, and then when a guy comes into her life, he's usually very dark and broody. She sees him as a project to fix, and then that's how that relationship starts. And yeah, it's a very sexist trope, and I'm not saying that is the cause all around, and I'm not saying I enjoy it, I'm just saying that that tends to be the stereotype. But as I said, there are versions of a Manic Pixie, a Manic Pixie Dream Boy as well, where the girl will be suffering in some way, maybe from an illness, maybe from just a lack of life in general, and then this guy comes into her life and also has this quirky, over-the-top lifestyle that just doesn't make sense to her, and he'll drag her along on journeys and stuff like that, and she'll realise, yes, there is some life out there after all for me. So when he vanishes, yeah, she's depressed, and yeah, she'll think, oh, I'll never find love again, but then she'll realise, no, they've still taught me other things. When a guy is introduced to a Manic Pixie Dream Girl, the guy will leave the story with a new lust for life. When a girl is introduced to a Manic Dream Boy, they realise that they have validation and that they will find another romance out there somewhere. It is still a sexist trope, and I hate it. Either way, it is just a project to fix. That is the bottom line here. Let's look at some examples. So for Manic Pixie Dream Girls, we have characters like Ramona Flowers from the Scott Pilgrim series. She comes out of nowhere. She is the ideal woman in Scott's mind. She is just this enigma of a human being that is there to fix him, and he doesn't think he needs to be fixed, but then when he sees how much she's been through and how she's still able to have this vim and vigour, then it sort of pushes him forward to not be so much of an asshole. Summer in 500 Days of Summer. Less said about that movie the better, because good god it is frustrating, but Zooey Deschanel's character there, she is very whimsical, lives in the moment, has no plan, does things because she wants to, and it's so confusing for our main character, but it's intriguing at the same time, and then he realises that he could have this attitude too, just in a more realistic way, to balance out for him to become a regular human being. Margot in Paper Towns, they tried so hard to not make her a Manic Pixie Dream character. I think that she was supposed to be a parody of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl, but it backfired horribly because she still ended up being one, this whimsical live in the moment person that just storms into somebody's life and then just vanishes without a trace and leaves clues to be found, but then you realise that it was all just a ploy, and it's just, no matter which way you look at it, she is designed to make the main character improve on himself. For the Manic Pixie Dream Boys, you have guys like Augustus from Fault in Our Stars, and with the whole metaphor thing to sort of make our main character realise that she is stronger than she realised she was, and that she will make it out of this alive, because he's just got this upbeat, metaphorical attitude to life that she wants to adopt, and it's just so whimsical and magical that she can't help but fall for it. And then you've got Will in 5 Feet Apart, who is, why is it when guys are the Manic Pixie Dream characters that it's always this medical based thing with terminal illnesses? Have you noticed that? Yeah, the same sort of thing. He's got this lust for life despite maybe not being able to have much of a life, and that inspires our main character to adopt that mindset in order to get stronger, in order to improve, because that's just how it goes. And then you have ones like Last Christmas, a film that came out in 2019, where you have this woman who has given up on life. She does not care anymore. So when this guy, Tom, just walks into her life and just seems to forcibly insert himself into her life and drag her out and show her that, you know, maybe Christmas isn't such a bad thing, that there is still hope for family, that there's still hope for life. She adopts all of these mindsets, and then when the twist happens at the end, which I will not spoil for you because it's not my kind of movie. I didn't enjoy this movie, but that ending did actually get me. I'll admit this ending got me. But it's the same concept of when this twist ending happens and the Manic Pixie Dream character has to go by some means or another, she's left on her own, and she does feel empty inside, but then she remembers the lessons and is improved along the way. This is the thing, it is not a bad thing for background characters to have an influence on your main characters. That shows growth, it shows development, and it shows that the story is being pushed along. You can have two characters that are the polar opposites of each other. Maybe one is stubborn-headed and a bit mean, the other one is very light and fluffy, that kind of thing. But they can learn from each other. One can learn to relax a bit, the other one can learn to stand up for themselves. It's a balance that you need to create. If it's just one character only learning from another, and that other character is just completely pointless and with lack of goals and aims and any hope for development, then it's just going to feel bland and one-sided, and that's not going to make for a very interesting read. People learn from each other all the time. That is just part of being human. Everyone has a lesson to teach, even if they don't really know that they're teaching a lesson. Everyone has ways of improving themselves. Everyone has help if I could talk. I need to improve on my speech. That is something. Everyone has ways to improve on themselves. Everyone has ways of developing. Everyone has something that they can learn on the way that could help or hinder them in later life. It goes both ways. That is not a bad thing. If you want a main character to learn a lesson from somebody else, then by all means do it, but just make sure that the person they're learning from has an actual personality and character, has a drive, has goals, has aims, has a flaw, has something just to make them real, because otherwise you're just going to have this whimsical character in the background that has no impact whatsoever on the story, even if they do have an impact on the character, and then they just vanish, and then it was like, why were they even there in the first place? You need to have this balance of give and take. If you're going to have a character learn something, then at least give them something to teach as well, in order to create this balance. Otherwise you end up with whimsical Manic Pixie dream characters everywhere, and it's just going to be a sugar overload that nobody wants. To avoid the Manic Pixie dream character, I mean, if you want quirky characters that don't quite fit into the world around them, if you want people who have these little things about them that don't seem quite right, or maybe they have a personality that's a little bit too upbeat for the situation that's going on, then by all means do that. No one is going to be the same cardboard cutout every time. If you want a character that is a little on the eccentric side and does like to take life by the horns and live in the moment, then by all means do that. That will make for a very fun and exciting character, and it's unpredictable. You never know what they're going to do next. But make sure they have a flaw, make sure they have a goal in mind, make sure that the reason that they're living like this is because of something that's happened to them that has put them in this mindset. Maybe they're going to learn to chill out a little bit along the way. Maybe they are going to realise that you can't always live this way. Have them learn something too, and have this little flaw just to trip them up every now and again. Just make them more, well, if you're not writing humans then fine, but at least make them more realistic. Have a balance. Are they hiding something? Do they have a nervous tick? Is it a family situation that has put them in this mindset? There has to be reasons for everything. They can't just be whimsical and exciting for whimsy and exciting sake, because it's like gore for gore's sake. I know gore and whimsy are two very different things, but if you're reading a horror book that has no monster or substance to it, and it is just blood and guts and gore and people getting ripped apart, but there's no actual story, then that can feel boring and bland. And it's the same here. You can have whimsical and exciting characters that don't always make sense a lot of the time, but there needs to be a reason for it, and there needs to be some way of pushing the story forward, and they need to develop along the way as well. Every character needs to be treated as a character, not just a prop. Again, to avoid this trope, you need to have characters that are completely independent from each other. No one needs to exist simply because the main character demands it. If you're having a group of people and they're all doing like a found family kind of thing, then make sure that they are all able to have some kind of coping mechanism on their own and not just relate for the main character. They need to have differing opinions, they need to have an adventure, a backstory, a solid way of growing, but maybe a way of regressing as well. It's just... You need to have everybody able to stand on their own 2 feet. You need to really look at your cast and think, could you have a story completely on your own, away from everybody else? If the answer is yes, then great, you're on the right path. If the answer is no, then you need to do some tweaking there, because they're a prop, not a character. And it's a horrible thing to go through, and it can be really frustrating, and it's a difficult thing to do, but it will make your characters more developed and real further along the way, rather than just the fun, quirky character because they're the fun, quirky character. Now, one of the main things about a Manic Pixie Dream character is that they will vanish seemingly without a trace, whether it's a death for death's sake, or to make a point, or they have moved away because they're living in the moment, they're just done with this place now, they don't need to stick around. If your character is going to leave, then have it make sense. Don't just do it for the sake of the plot or for mystery. Maybe they are kidnapped, maybe they are murdered, maybe they do just want to move to a different place. Those things are perfectly valid reasons to leave the story, but they need to actually make sense to the plot and what has happened so far. If it is just very sudden, it's going to be like, okay, what the hell? And your readers are going to be left feeling empty and confused, and it just feels cheap. Let them have this desire to grow, let them have this need to explore and expand and become more independent, because things like that will lead to much more natural storytelling. So if they do have to leave for whatever reason, it's not going to feel so bland, it's going to feel like it makes sense to their character, and that's what you want. All in all, the Manic Pixie Dream character is fascinating. They are interesting, and they can be really fun to watch and fun to read sometimes, and you do sometimes want to adopt this mindset of, yeah, I can do what I want and I can live in the moment and just be carefree and not have to worry about anything. It's just the ultimate free life. Everybody can relate to wanting that, but not everybody can relate to having that. And a character that is all they are, it can be fun to start with, but in the long run it is just a stereotype, it is a cliche, it is boring, it is so overdone, and it just makes no sense to possibly everything else that is happening in your story, and it just gets frustrating after a while. You can have characters that have traits of a Manic Pixie Dream character, but do not write a Manic Pixie Dream character because it is bland and lazy. Have weird characters, have weird quirks, have random habits that make no sense, have characters that really want to just live in the moment, but then just add this flaw to it, add a twist along the way, and give them a goal. Do they really want to live in the moment because they're really trying to avoid the past or avoid what's going to happen in the future, or are they just, that's just the way they've been raised, but then they learn that you can't always live that way. Have them learn from the main character as well as the main character learning from them in order to create this balance. Manic Pixie Dream characters. Often sexist. Always dull. This thing, their whole thing is to be unpredictable, but in that they just become so predictable and they're best off avoided. This turned into a much longer rant than I was expecting, but it was also really fun to talk about. Have you guys experienced any Manic Pixie Dream characters in your writing or reading or movie, TV series viewing? Give some examples if you want to. If I haven't gone completely off the rails on this topic, most likely, but if you have anything to add, please let me know in the comments. I would love to further this discussion because, I don't know, trope talks are interesting. I find these little case studies really fun to talk about, and yeah. But that was my take on the Manic Pixie Dream character. I'm sorry I went on so many rants, but that is just what I am like at the moment. But yeah, I am going to stop before I go on yet another tangent, because once again, you all know what I'm like, so it is very possible that I will go on another tangent. Even now, I found myself rambling. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have anything to add, then please do. I'd love to continue this discussion, and I hope you're doing well, I hope you're staying safe, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye, my scribblers.